All right. Another episode of the Rizz Dev podcast. I have my close friend, Ian Faddis, who works for Kelly Create. He is a copier slinger. He's been doing it for solidly a decade now. And I'm interviewing him because he's a close friend of mine, and I think he has a lot of important things to say. Ian, thank you for coming on the show with me.
Well, thank you for having me. Congrats on all of the success of your podcast. It seems to be really catching on. You've had some interesting guests. I'm just honored to be here.
I appreciate it. I can see the smirks on some mutual friends of ours as we talk with each other. Um, but anyway, I actually we talk a lot all the time,
We do a
and
lot
I
of
have
sales theory, a lot of kind of, we use sales analogies in a lot of what we talk about, which I'm sure we're going to
it is
discuss
yet,
today.
and we will, and it's fun. But in all seriousness, you are having a good year, right? You've qualified for P Club, President's
Yep.
Club in the third quarter. You got a few big
First year back in
clients.
Seattle. I'm
You're back.
pretty I'm happy to be home. Had a little tour around Oregon, but it's nice to be back.
Hmm. Okay, very nice. Well, I mean, how are things going
I mean, everything is
otherwise?
going good. I really can't complain as
Uh-huh.
far as we have a nice group of customers. I've been fortunate enough to sign a few accounts that people have made note of. So it's going very well. You know what they say about sales? You don't have to be extraordinary. You just have to be consistent, and that's what I'm trying
That's
to
true.
do.
Actually, one thing I'm most happy for you about is that you've said on multiple occasions, I don't know if you've said this to like Greg or anything like that, but Kelly Create feels more like, okay, this is home for you. Like you're
It
doing
does feel like home.
you're
Really awesome
okay, good.
leadership team.
Good.
They have a lot of great products in their offering. Um, some of the best copier brands on the market, on top of some of the best
Hmm.
softwares. It really is just a great company.
Nice, nice. Okay, well then let's jump into a divisive sales topic. I almost
Ooh.
said toxic. And it's prospecting. If you're on LinkedIn at all, or if you're talking with salespeople, there's so many books written about this sort of thing. Um, but specifically about prospecting, do you like to use a script or when you're making phone calls? What's your preferred
I'm
method?
not a big script guy. Miles Davis didn't get on stage and read sheet music, which is probably the most arrogant thing I'll say this whole podcast. But no, I'm not a big script guy. I
Yeah.
think I keep a very simple talk track, and then as somebody once said, there is no magic script that's going to get somebody to take your meeting, which is, I'm
Mhm.
kind of assuming something which I know salespeople aren't supposed to do. I'm assuming the podcast is not for somebody who's trying to sell knives door to door or magazine subscriptions. This is for
Right.
this is for people that have 30, 60, 90-day sales cycles that you're trying to get in front of decision makers and C-level people.
Right.
And going back to what I kind of said, or going back to why I don't use a script is that I've probably picked up the phone, read a script twice in my life, and somebody took the meeting. There's
Right.
usually some
Okay.
sort of objection that you have to be ready for that's hard to script out.
That is true. Yeah. I do like to use a script only for in the sense that I want to know what I'm saying and I want to know what I'm saying works. And I treat the call as more of I'm testing a hypothesis as to what it is that they are, what they need. Now, also, with what you're doing with copiers, specifically the copier itself, it's a little more cut and dry. They're in market or they're not, right? There's
Hmm.
a lease, and the lease
Hmm.
comes to an end, and you're just wanting to stay top of mind. So I can see your perspective, but from my view, I think it's always helped me to have a script, but I don't read from it.
Hmm.
I deliver it. Like in a movie, they have scripts, right? So, but they're delivering the script, and sometimes they go off script, and there's some iconic movie moments. I'm thinking of Blade Runner. I've seen things. I've seen things your people wouldn't believe. Starships off the shoulder of Orion. Totally unscripted, right? Brilliant scene. So I'm with you, right? So they both work.
I like what you said about the hypothesis. That's interesting to me. You can kind of tweak it and see what doesn't work and what does work. And
Mhm.
I'm not 100% opposed to scripts, but right now I've got just a very simple, one of the great questions that we kind of always debate is, are you a fan of the permission-based opener? You're calling a
Hmm.
customer, does whether you're using a script or not, do you think that you should ask for a moment of their time, or if you're catching them at a good time? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm a small L libertarian on this issue. You just got to do what works,
Okay.
and just do what works. I mean, I like the permission based. Okay, so here's a for instance.
Yeah.
I was doing a project this weekend, making calls on behalf of a political campaign, actually,
Oh.
and giving away money in
Mm-hmm.
exchange for a signature. And
Mm-hmm.
going into those calls, not asking for permission, like of just a stranger, um, did not go over well. So it was better for me. And this is like the extreme.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking like the tail ends of two extremes. Like this is, hey, I'm sure I caught you at dinner. Did you have a minute? And I could tell you why I'm calling. You might find this interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then most people are like, yeah, it's fine. Or a lot more hangups because like I am literally calling strangers
Mm-hmm.
for not a business reason.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are other times in which I'm calling, whatever, the chief marketing officer, and it made sense to ask a good open-ended question that wasn't asking for permission to talk with them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I have been. So I really just try to consider the audience, think about what has worked in the past, and go from there. So I don't have a hard line on this
Mm-hmm.
particular issue. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are I'm a pretty big fan of it. I've seen multiple people on LinkedIn talk about how, you're calling on somebody and you're supposed to be their peers and all of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
I just I couldn't disagree. I vehemently disagree, adamantly disagree. I
Mm-hmm.
can't think of enough adjectives to disagree with that. We're salespeople calling somebody to to ask for something. We should be respectful.
Mm.
That's my
Okay.
thought on it.
Yeah, I sent you. No, that's good. I mean, that's whatever works. I mean, I think I sent you a clip of a guy making a cold call, and he kind of gets lectured by a VP of sales. And I think you had a really good point. You said something like, "Well, I think he just knows too much, right? This guy is in selling,
Mm-hmm.
so it's easy for him to hear a script and critique it. It's the same thing like when I was DJing. Whenever I went to an event where I was not the DJ, I would think to myself, like, I play that song totally different in different context, or if I'm seeing somebody play guitar, I probably would have done this in this particular context. So, yeah, very, very interesting. So you
Yeah.
vehemently disagree. You think that always permission based is the right way to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think right now. Usually, what I'll say is, my name is Ian. I'm calling from Kelly Create. I know that you weren't expecting my call. However, we work with XYZ Company. Maybe you've heard our name tossed around, and then I pause.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
quick name drop, and then I kind of pause to give them. I guess that's not a full permission based opener. I'll use, hey, my name's Ian. I know you weren't expecting my call. Am I catching you at a good time? I think it's important to lean in to you're making a cold call rather than try and do a beat around the bush a little bit, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it makes
I
sense.
like.
You're going to,
Go ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just saying, you're going to P Club. So
Yeah,
it
trust me,
obviously works.
it doesn't mean that I know everything, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
my way of give them a chance to say this isn't the best time because I've had several people, especially when you use a good name drop, especially when you say, "Have you heard our name tossed around?" They go, "You're not catching me at the best time." And then I go, "Oh, are you going to be free around 2 o'clock this afternoon?" And if you call them back at the time that you said you would, you can kind of skip all of that stuff. You can say, "Hey, my name's Ian. I'm calling from Kelly. You asked me to call you at 2 o'clock," and then you can kind of go right into something.
I think that that's such an underrated piece of the permission based opener is the follow up.
Uh
Like
huh.
you're following up with them, like you've built trust with this person once you make the call back to them. Right. There is Ian, you don't know him, but I recommend you follow him, Sean Cease. I'll
Okay.
send you his LinkedIn. He always has great um, tips and
Hmm.
mindset around cold calling. And his findings are that so much of the results of most of the results that you get in cold calling come in the follow up. So I'm
Hmm.
actually, if I'm asking for someone's time and they say, you know what, this actually is a bad time, and I get them to agree that I can call them back at a later date, that's beautiful. I'm with you on that.
I
Okay, here's,
will throw
oh, so go
something
ahead.
else. What's that?
I interrupted. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I mean, I'll throw something else out there when I'm kind of giving my opening pitch. When you're selling copiers, when you're selling, I don't, I mean, of all the things you can sell, most of what we're selling these are long-term contracts. If it involves leasing any sort of equipment or anything like that, they're non-cancelable. And one of the things I like to acknowledge is, in some way or another, hey, I'm just calling to see if I can get on your calendar and share what we did for XYZ company, because I see a lot of new reps that will make a
Mhm.
cold call and they'll say, "Hey, my name's John. I'm calling from XYZ copier company, and did you know that our copiers have the best graphic color in the industry and scan twice as fast as the one you have now?" And then they stop. And the reason they're getting a lot of "I'm not interested" or any of those objections is because I think the customer doesn't realize you're not asking them to switch right now, but it kind of sounds like you are.
Right.
Like, are you
I'm
make a
guilty of
decision
that.
about this now? Just
Yeah.
like if somebody from AT&T called me and I'm with Verizon, they want me to switch right then and there. That's not what you and I and the people that are listening to this podcast are doing. And I think it's
Right.
important to say, "Hey, look, I just want to get on your calendar for a moment and share what we did for XYZ company."
Right. Selling the meeting.
Exactly. We're
That's
only
good.
selling a meeting. Wait, speaking of selling the meeting, I gotta ask you: are you a fan of the two dates and two times? We were taught that when we were selling at a copier company together. You give them a
Yeah.
date and a
Yeah.
time, and then another date and a time. What are your thoughts?
Um, oh, so I was not expecting this. Again, I don't do it much. I haven't done it lately.
Okay.
Um, so I'm more, my focus is, and again, I think this is the nature of what we're doing is a little bit different. Like I have clients that I'm calling other companies on behalf
Mm-hmm.
of them, like, but as a third party trying to test their marketplace where you're in a very mature industry.
Okay.
So the approach could be different. And also like this, the copier is more commoditized
Mm-hmm.
than like an AI product, which I think is
That's
on the way
very
to
true.
commoditized. But anyway, um,
Give AI 5 years; it'll get
good question.
commoditized.
Oh, it is a race. So you can see that it's kind of a race to the bottom in some
Mm-hmm.
ways. Like, what's different about you? And it's like AI. Uh,
That was us. That was us
but
10 years ago selling. We have software, so you're
yeah,
not
exactly.
wrong.
Yes, yes. No, it's true. When I'm talking to people, I find that I've had multiple conversations. I'm following up, and like it's just this fourth warm call. Like, hey, you mentioned it was better to chat now. Have things changed? Um, I have. It doesn't make sense to talk now. Yeah, it does. Let's talk. And they've already agreed that we can meet, and we're just picking a time at that point, as opposed to closing for a time by asking, by bracketing the times, and instead of asking yes or no questions, like I feel like I'm asking more yes or no questions because I want to have more conversations down the road, as opposed to like, yeah, I don't know. Is this making sense? I'm rambling a little bit. I haven't done the 2 dates and times
You haven't
lately.
used that in a while. When I worked in Portland, it was so funny. There was this guy that we worked with in the Portland office. When we were making phone calls, if it didn't, it could have been Jeff Bezos he was calling or Elon Musk. If they said, "Yeah, I have time at Thursday at 2 o'clock," he would bluff and go, "Oh, I'm booked on Thursday. What about next Tuesday?" Didn't matter who. It was just always funny.
Yeah,
He was like,
that's
"I always reject the first offer to meet."
on principle. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is funny. I have I have done that too. It's been a while since I've
Okay.
done that as well. Like I want to be. I mean, I do want. I mean, I've definitely done the thing where it's like it's open. Like, oh, well, let
Hmm.
me see if I can squeeze you in between.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can bump this coffee break and meet with you at 9:30. Um. Okay. So more. Okay. Let's a little more tactics. Like,
Hmm.
do you? Sorry. Do you take many virtual meetings, or is everything in person? I did want to talk to you about this because
Well,
a lot of the people who are probably going to listen to this are work in SaaS, and
hmm,
their
millennials.
customer is in a different time zone.
Uh huh.
They could be millennials as well.
Yeah.
Uh, I identify as a millennial. Ian technically is a millennial, but does not see eye to eye. He's an exennial. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I was born in '81, so depending on whose definition of millennial you use, I mean, one of the things is you and I have been in B2B sales for 10 years. We're starting to see
Mm-hmm.
millennials get into decision-making roles. And on top of that,
Right.
coming out of COVID, these millennials that are in decision-making roles may not have run a lot of meetings face to face. So for me
Okay.
personally, I always want an in-person meeting, but that's for a different reason than the average person. In that when I'm trying to run a meeting, I want to look at their office technology. How big is the copier? Do they have a mail machine? How old is their phone system? Because those are all offerings that we have at Kelly. But I mean, I've run
Mm-hmm.
meetings. I've gotten meetings and then I get there and their copier stretches across the room. In fact, it happened to me last Wednesday. They called
Mm-hmm.
me in to talk about label printers, and I went in. They had the biggest copier I'd ever seen. So
Okay.
I'm always a big fan of the in person meeting. If I can't get the in person meeting, I'll take a Teams call. Especially if we've already had one meeting, I'm happy to do a Teams call. For the second one, conference calls over the phone, I'm not the biggest fan of. But then again, we're
Mm-hmm.
salespeople. We can't be too choosy.
Yes. Well, some of the people listening are going to. They're going to have their territory is not where they live, right? So
Yes.
um, they're taking a call that's on the East Coast and they live in California or something like that. So it's always
Hmm.
over, Zoom or Teams or
Hmm.
something like that. But one thing that I think there's a big commonality, and it has to do it's a few steps back from the meeting. It's the building the list. Um, Now, many SaaS companies will pretty much basically buy a list. They start with the hypothesis of who it is that, uh, like who's their total addressable market, who is it that would make the decision at this place, who would help make the decision, and they're finding these names in Zoom and online and all that. But as somebody who has an actual territory that they live in, it like behooves you to go out and see, because you need to see the copier. You want to meet who's in charge of this sort of thing.
Hmm.
Is there more than just the copier? Are there stacks of papers everywhere that
Hmm.
could be
Document
stored
management,
digitally?
inventory, or accounts payable, process improvement. They could have, I mean, they could have paper, they could have documents they've been meaning to archive for 3 years and they just don't know who to reach out to. It's a very odd service. Like, do you have a bunch of
Hmm.
paper documents that you want to make digital? And then every company in the world always has the same questions like, how do we do this? How do we store them? How do we retrieve them? How do we delete them? So, yeah, sometimes you walk in and there's just paper everywhere, and you kind of ask, have you been meaning to do something about this? And they say, yeah, for the better part of a decade. We just don't know how to handle it.
How many calls do you do normally? I mean, I think
On a
I know
normal
the
day,
answer, but just for
I,
people
I,
who
I
aren't,
sorry, say that
yeah,
again.
just yeah, in a normal day or in a week, like when you're, what does it look like? You get in your car, you go, you have a list of people you're going to go visit.
Boy, that
Can you give me an
how,
example of like
how
of a good day?
how busy my week is usually relative to how much prospecting I've done the 3 weeks before. Because if I have a week that's
Hmm.
lined up with just meetings with current and new customers, what I'll do is I'll meet with them, and then I'll just visit a few prospects around them, and just say, hey, I work with your neighbor, and we were able to do X, Y, and Z for them, and after we reviewed their contracts, we found 20% cost savings or whatever. So that could be one week. There's other weeks like Monday, I get to the office, I look at my calendar, I'm like, oh no, there is nothing on my calendar, and then it's 20 dials. Then I'm out in meeting with current customers and you know working my way through the territory. What I'll do is like if I'm going to meet with maybe one customer, I'll look up the 10 biggest accounts in that zip code.
Awesome. And you like to visit and with them
That's
instead of have a
right.
meeting. Where
Oh,
this is actually kind
so
of like a running joke with us is using is we both I think we both like language, we both like
hmm
movies, books, audiobooks, how we read.
hmm
And um
I'm reading a
but
couple
this is
books right
actually I feel like this is okay, good. No,
now.
I am as well. I'm actually
hmm
reading them rather than listening to them.
Oh,
But I think that this is like an important distinction. You like to say, hey, when you're asking for the meeting, you're not just saying, hey, can we have a meeting?
hmm
Like, can I come visit? Can I come see you?
Typically, so I try to say, would you mind, can I get on your calendar and we can maybe visit for 15 minutes? A very good friend of ours who is actually quite good on the phone and a very good prospector. He's the one who taught me use the word visit instead of meetings. Meetings put people's guard up. Like when you talk
Hmm.
about having a meeting, how many people have to be in it? Meetings typically don't go for just 20 or 30 minutes. They know that meetings can go on for hours. So if, as he so elegantly put it, you don't meet with your grandmother, you visit. So just say, hey, look, would you mind if I come by and
Mm,
visit for 15 or 20 minutes? People are probably not going to say no to that as much as they're going to say, can I get on
right.
your calendar at 1:30 on the 21st so that we can have a meeting? That I don't think the average person wants another meeting. Also, not to
Right.
mention, we're not always meeting or visiting with a decision maker, and no employee that at best can be a champion or an influencer wants to start a meeting with a new copier company unless they've been tasked to. But maybe I just want to come by
Yeah.
and visit and learn more about what they have. What are you currently doing for printing? Who's your current vendor? How's that going?
Hmm.
So that's why I use the word visit.
Nice. I like that. So yeah, it could be 15 minutes. It could be longer if you hit it
hmm
off. Um,
Exactly.
but you're there really to gather info. You're just there to learn. You're having a conversation.
hmm
Nice. Okay. Well, that's good. I like that. What do you think the most sales people could improve on when it comes to using the phone?
Talk less.
Hmm.
Talk less. I mean, so many people they just pick up the phone and they think that they're like a radio DJ or a podcast DJ. I'm showing my Gen X
Hmm.
age here. Um, so I mean,
Podcast
for the
DJ.
millennials that are listening to this, the radio is that thing in the car with your car with two knobs that sometimes noise comes out of that you don't recognize. But
This is
for but so many
okay.
people I listen to on the phone, they just start talking when especially during a meeting or a visit. But even when I'm working on the phone, you should be talking 30% of the time and let them talk 70%.
How do you do that?
Just ask a couple questions. You know, you,
Okay.
um, just very simple questions like, "What are you doing for this right now? How's?" And then ask a follow up question. How's that working out for you? How's that going? You know, if you could, if I could X, Y, and Z, what would that look like?
Sorry, I may have lost you.
Uh oh.
And if I did, I can edit you back in. You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, sorry, it broke up.
Yeah, that might be on my end. It is a rainy and windy day on Bainbridge Island today.
Oh no, no worries, no worries. I can fix it in
Perfect.
post production.
I didn't mean to
Okay,
create
okay.
work
Let's.
for you.
No, you didn't. You're not. You're fine. It's all good. Okay, gloves off. Do you leave voicemails, Ian, or no
Oh,
voicemails?
oh my goodness, boy! There's another great debate amongst salespeople. It's like two basketball players talking about, do you drive for the lane or shoot the three type of thing. Which is the extent of my basketball knowledge. I really should have gone for another analogy. Um, But no, I'm not a big. I mean, first of all, if I'm calling a current customer or I'm following up on something, yes, I absolutely leave a voicemail. However, I for the sheer cold call, if I'm calling a C level person, a CIO, COO, CFO, and I'm trying just to get them to meet me, and I've
Mhm.
never met them, I am not a fan of the voicemail. To me, that's just putting some cards on the table. Um, that's something I might want to work on. I've heard some great strategy, and I definitely want to hear what you have to say about this. I know a lot of people that will say like, "Hey, my name is Ian. I'm calling from XYZ company. My phone number is," and they'll leave their phone number twice before they even go into the pitch. Which I think that's an
Mhm.
interesting strategy because I think instinctively, if somebody leaves a phone number for us, we start to write it down.
Right. One of the best tips that I've gotten lately is around voicemail. Is if you're calling someone's cell phone, it is important that you slow down
Mm-hmm.
because what you say can be transcribed. So
Hmm.
they don't actually need to write anything down anymore.
Oh.
And so let's say you're leaving your email address.
Mm-hmm.
You say the whole thing so that the transcriber thing can pick it up and they might click on it. Who knows? They may not email you. They might. Same with phone number. You can say it and it's easy for them to click. But when you're leaving voicemails, just think of it as um, they're going to be reading it. Like even now, like if I get a call, it will live transcribe on my iPhone what the
Mm-hmm.
person is saying.
Yeah.
So there is that. I have gone back and forth on this. Two side like there are two. Yeah, there's two sides to this. I have done what's called the triple. There's a guy named Justin Michael who's written a great book um, about selling and sales and mostly creating top of funnel and he where is it? I have it right here. Sales superpowers. Boom.
Ooh, I'll check that out.
1.0. Yeah, it's good. He talks about using the triple where you call and this is a very condensed sequence. Call, voicemail, email,
Okay.
and just doing those constantly. So I've been doing that for trying to find new clients for myself. But then there are other times where I'm just like calling, and the time spent to leave a voicemail, it kind of it doesn't help, right? You're spending so much time leaving voicemails that you could have made 10 more calls, right? By the end of your call block. So I am torn on this. I don't. I think I tend to more so just not leave a voicemail, especially when I'm calling for a client. If I'm calling for a client, a voicemail comes up. I just keep going.
I
If I'm
will
calling
say
for
this.
myself, I leave a voicemail along with the email.
I will say this. I had in my 10-year career, I've left two voicemails. They were both for private schools that had pretty good sized fleet of copiers. And because they have to go to market, they don't have to, but because they have part government funding and part not and all these things, they basically have to meet with X amount of vendors. They did call me back. So I have won two deals by leaving voicemails in 10 years. Not exactly batting 1,000
Hmm.
on it, but there are circumstances where that works. Now,
Gotcha.
what about
Okay.
this? I got to say, what are your thoughts on email?
They should read like texts.
Yes,
Again, from Sales Superpowers.
100%.
They should. I'm a huge fan of like the executive email, like one lowercase, and especially now with AI. I'm not saying like go in and like misspell every little thing to make the point that you're not using AI to write an email. And it shouldn't be overly personalized either.
Hmm.
Like, hey, I noticed that you live,
Yeah.
hey, I saw you at the coffee shop the other day, or whatever, or the weather. Like,
I
I'm not
noticed
into
you
that
like
sort
the
of thing.
blazers in small coffee shops on LinkedIn. Like, yeah.
Yeah. This is no, it's relevant to a problem. Like, that's the level of personalization. Like, I'm personalizing this to you as somebody who is the CEO of this problem at, and again, I'm making a guess, right? That this person's in charge of it because I've talked to other companies like theirs. So with email, very short and sweet. Um, I'm assuming that they're just going to look at the little headline and decide whether or not to keep it or not. So that's my view on email. And I
When
send
we were
pictures as
working
well.
when we were working at that copier company all those years ago, the director of learning development
Mhm.
was reviewing one of my emails because I was trying to get into this very large account because I knew they were going to market and that I wanted them to look at us. And he just tore it apart. And he goes, "You don't realize that the average decision maker might be reading this email from their phone, like when they're in
Mhm.
an Uber or going to lunch or even taking a bus home." And he goes, you can't send them three paragraphs. They're not going to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. The 3 paragraphs and a call to action and,
Hmm.
your phone number at the end and like a
Yeah,
overly long subject. They just don't care.
exactly.
Um, I like LinkedIn DMs. That's what I like doing. Reaching out to
Oh,
people via DM, sending videos, sending GIFs, pictures, keeping it very light but to the point, but short and sweet, like very consumable pieces. Because nobody's gonna read it. They're gonna
hmm,
first there's like multiple levels of reading. There's a book called How to Read,
hmm.
and it goes through these different steps on how to read a book. It's similar when like you ever on LinkedIn and you click on somebody's got this really great little headline and then you click on it and then your page just expands like this
Oh,
much and you just
yes.
see all you I can just feel my brain going like too many words
Uh
and then
huh.
I just keep going. And I'm sure the content's great, but I can't do that for every single one. Um, Same with email. Like some people are getting so many emails. So I'm sending a picture, of something silly,
Hmm.
but still relevant. I'm sending a GIF in the DM. I'm sending a video in the DM or a voice drop or something like that because the long form email is not great, especially for when it comes to net new customers.
I mean, generally, if you can make somebody laugh, their guard comes down. One of the things I like to do is I like to call CPA firms or accounting firms. I'll call them at the end of March, and I'll make a joke. Go, yeah, I called for you on April 14th. I don't know if you got my voicemail,
Yeah,
and it makes them laugh enough that it
yeah,
gets me a few meetings.
yeah. That's that's wonderful. That's
Yeah.
I feel like there should be more of that than like strict scripting. If there's one thing that I do agree with you on when going back to scripting, is that part of the reason why I wanted to start making more like making content and writing about this sort of thing is that at a base level we are interacting with another person and it's forgotten, genuinely
Hmm.
forgotten. Like that should be the first thing that someone says in a sales training. Oh, hey, by the way, that's a human being. You have no idea what they're going through,
Hmm.
but it seems to be more of an afterthought. And just that little bit of like, hey, maybe I can just, they might only give me like 30 seconds, but if I can just get them to laugh, that might buy me another 30 seconds, or it might buy me
Exactly.
that 15-minute visit that I've been wanting, only
Oh, 100%.
because you were unselfish enough to think of that person. Um, okay. Thank you for letting me have a little rant there.
No,
What?
no, I think you're 100% right.
Thank you. Thank you. What's your favorite sales book?
Ooh, that's the easiest question you'll ask me this whole time.
Okay.
Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. I'm going to plug it right now. If you are in sales and you have to negotiate price, contract term lengths, or anything, read Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. He was an FBI hostage negotiator who wrote a book about how to negotiate anything. It is, this will be something very arrogant. I say, what is they say there's only two perfect documents, the Bible and the Constitution. I want to argue now there's three. Never Split the Difference with Chris Voss. Also,
Nice.
you have to edit out that part. That maybe that's a little
No, not at all. No, no, that's great. That's perfect.
okay, but no, I mean,
No.
Never Split the Difference. I mean, I think another great book is Jeb Blunt's Fanatical Prospecting, just because Jeb Blunt, he was the first person to write a book about prospecting, and he has a lot of great advice. Like, to be in sales, you have to be willing to interrupt somebody's day.
Yeah.
And that's something that he talks about early in the book, along with one of my other favorite things that he talked about. And I don't, tell me when the story gets too long,
No, go ahead.
but he talked about, he was on the road, he's traveling, he forgot a blue shirt and he had to wear like a suit and a tie for this meeting. He goes to a department store, a young lady offers him help and says, "Can I help you find anything?" And instinctively he says, "Oh no, I'm just looking."
Mm-hmm.
And the lesson that he used, of course, I used to work retail, so that hit home for me. But the lesson that he's trying to give us, the reader, is when salespeople try to interact with us, our natural instinct is to give them an objection or tell them no.
Right.
So, and I think that was a very powerful lesson to me, that here he is, he needs this. He can't wear a white t-shirt and a red tie and a blue suit. He'd look weird. He needs this shirt for a presentation tomorrow. But even when, the demand, the need was so high, he still didn't want to interact with the sales associate. So I think that's something that would be another great book that I recommend.
Very nice. I
How about
also,
you?
I really like Never Split the Difference. Although it was so popular that the tactics were like became ubiquitous, which is fine. I mean, that means it was obviously good. But I that's one of the few books that I have read and then reread. I think I've read it 3 times.
Yeah.
I've read Fanatical Prospecting twice, and then again, this might seem like recency bias, but Sales Superpowers by Justin Michael has changed everything for me very, recently.
Whoa, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it really has, just because it is maybe not, I don't know if counterintuitive is the word, but I mean, there's a lot of practical knowledge, and I don't see a lot of people using the strategies.
Mm-hmm.
And many, it could be recency bias. It could be that it's been working for me. So, I'm gonna add that to my favorites list.
Both of those books, I mean, both those reasons are good for
Mhm.
why. I mean, if it's working for you, definitely plug the book. Definitely add it to your top 5, dead or alive.
Definitely, Justin Michael. Thank you for writing that. He does have. He does have another book on the way, and I've gotten like special access to it. It's been awesome. But yeah, that's it. Sales Superpowers has changed things for me lately, because it just gave me permission to do other things, like doing the DMs and like sending videos and sending emails as that read like texts, and doing the triples. These are not my ideas; those are his, and they've worked. Leveraging LinkedIn way more, and just going all in on that. All those things have worked for me, so that's why I love that book.
Very nice.
and then I guess there's two other books, and they're very like this is you know how to win friends and influence people.
Oh,
I
that's
just
a great one.
it's just a classic. Again, because it just reinforces what I'm saying about just remembering
Hmm.
you're talking with people. Like this is all about people. And then As a Man Thinketh.
Oh, tell me
That
about this
book.
one.
This is it's really short. It kind of reads like the Bible a little bit. It was written in the 1890s
Okay.
by James Allen, and it's just as a man thinketh, so is he.
Hmm.
And it just was this book that was given to me at the right time in my life. Like I was just totally going nowhere, getting in trouble, and a friend of mine who I still chat with often gave me this book at a very low point in my life, and it was just that one thing. Like uh, he was just encouraging me, just like you need to take responsibility for your actions because you're just where you're at because of who what you've done, and that's like it's good news and bad news. It's actually great news
Hmm.
because now you can change, right? And so that book was a catalyst for me, and so
Nice.
I read that. I've reread that several times. It's short, right? It takes like 30 minutes to read, and it's like pocket-sized little book.
Oh.
So I recommend that. Have you never read that or heard of it?
No, no, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I definitely need to reread How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Yeah.
That's just such a classic.
Yes. Okay. Lighthearted question. I
Of
mean, these are
course.
most have been lighthearted, mostly tactical, but I do want
Hmm.
to. We're both movie guys. I think you are more well versed when it comes to film than I am. But what is, in your opinion, what's the best sales movie
The
of all time?
best sales movie?
Yeah.
Oh, let's see. I mean, all right, we're gonna break it down into two different categories. What's the best and what's my favorite? The
Okay.
best sales movie to me will always be Glengarry because, well, number one, I don't have to use its full title,
Yeah.
Glengarry Glen Ross.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. But I don't think that there is a sales movie that captures the highs and the lows of, when, like when Al Pacino thought he had a deal signed and then Kevin Spacey messed it up. We've all had less than great sales managers. For the record, I am not suffering through that right now. I have the best boss in the world. But we've all had sales managers that weren't qualified to be sales managers. So Glengarry is by far my favorite, or excuse me, is by far the best sales movie. My favorite will always be The Wolf of Wall Street.
No, that's
If you
hey.
haven't seen it, go out and see The Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall Street is totally debauched, but it kind of does the thing that Scorsese does in his movies, where he really glorifies like the highs, and no matter how debauched, but then they suffer consequences in the movie. You watch them suffer the consequences, and I think that's really, I mean, he does it the best, in my opinion, in Goodfellas. Right? He's
Yes.
just really they're just reveling in the crime and what they're doing. Same with the Wolf of Wall Street. They're loving it. Things are great. They're cheating people. It's good.
Mm-hmm.
Bad people, good things happen to bad people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like redemption. Right?
Well,
That's
that first phone call that he makes, either one of those phone calls that he makes where and now I actually stepped in a real bear trap here, where he reads from his script.
there it is. I didn't want to say it, but
But
you're my guest.
there are, I mean, you can find these. There's essays and YouTube videos that break down. Again, there's a permission-based opener. There's a benefit statement. He objection handles, and he even kind of says when he's teaching his crew to objection handle, it doesn't matter what they say. They're going to throw something out there. You're
Yeah.
just some sleazy salesperson that called them. And look at you. Yeah, you guys are.
Yeah, exactly. I still haven't read the is it called The Way of the Wolf, Straight Line Selling? I haven't read that yet. That's out, and I do want to read it. One of my guests, James, he said he really liked it, and I've had other people say that they like it as well. So I'm going to read that next.
Well, very nice.
Okay. I can't. I mean, again, this is like, boy, I do like. I love Glengarry Glen Ross, and I do like The Wolf of Wall Street.
Those are
Um,
probably. I can't think of another sales movie right now unless I thought. I'd have to give it some serious thought. But those two seem to be um, really the best.
I like The Founder.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
That's a great choice.
yeah, it's not specifically a sales movie. I guess I like that scene of him going out and trying to sell um the milkshake machines, and
Hmm.
he's delivering his script and just going through it and going through it. He goes to get lunch, and then he has this idea of like, of going. He visits the McDonald's, and he's like, "This is great. It should be everywhere." I really like that. It's not like a sales movie in per se, but I
There's a
enjoy that
wonderful
movie.
video on YouTube that breaks down, and this is going to sound horrible because I don't know the actor's name, but he was Ryan from The Office. If anybody's watched The Office, they know who Ryan is, the
Oh yeah,
character. The actor that plays Ryan from The Office, when he's selling Michael Keaton on the idea that you're not in the hamburger and fries business, you're in the land business. It's a very classic sales pitch.
yes, yeah. That is really good. Wait, so then how about non-sales movies? Do you have a?
Well, I mean, I love The Dark Knight. There's so many life lessons in that movie.
Mhm.
Well, maybe not life lessons. I think I just enjoyed the movie. I mean, I have tons of favorite movies.
Okay, nice. You have an interesting story in that I think your mom used to have a movie theater,
Yes,
right? And so yeah,
I
you value her movie opinion as well,
I
right?
value her movie opinion very much. In
Hmm.
fact, everything that I think most of my taste in movies comes from her because from a young age she would talk to me about, did this, did you believe this character's motives in the movie? And I'd say, no, no, that doesn't make sense to me.
Hmm.
Or, did you feel like the third act was rushed or the end of the movie didn't, so yeah, I like to think that um, all of my taste in movies comes from my mother.
Does she approve of Wolf of Wall Street?
She's actually never seen The Wolf of Wall Street, and I don't know if I want to watch it with her, but
No,
she's a huge Scorsese fan.
okay.
She hadn't seen Casino, and we sat down and watched Casino a couple months ago. Talking about a
Interesting.
movie where the characters get their just deserve in the end, and
Oh
um,
man, Casino has a
so in
crazy
fact,
story
here's
because
a debate for you:
yeah, go ahead.
Casino or Goodfellas?
Oh, Goodfellas.
I'll see Casino all the
I,
way for me.
I know. I don't mean to say it so quickly like that.
It's okay.
Uh, I love Goodfellas. I really like Casino. It's a little too long for me. But the interesting story, and sorry if your baby in the background,
No, no, you're
he's
fine.
sad. Um,
By the way, I'm losing daylight here.
oh, you're good. I'm gonna.
Okay, cool,
This is the last point, and then I should run.
awesome.
So, um, the Casino and Goodfellas both are like based on true stories.
Hmm.
But in Casino, they had the actual mobster who did the hit on set. Did you know this?
No, no, do tell.
He was on set because in exchange for immunity for being a witness, he was set free. Right? He didn't have to serve any prison time. And I forget. I haven't seen Casino in so long, so I can't remember the characters. But he's off on the side, and they're doing the hit scene. He's like, "No, no, no, that's not how it happened." And Scorsese's like, "What do you mean that's not how it happened? What do you mean?" He's like, "I did it." And so he ended up doing the scene.
Wow, it's got to be near the end.
Yeah, it's I'll have to watch
Well,
it. I'm sorry that I don't have any
that's okay.
names, but Ian, thank you for
Thank you
joining me.
for having me on. I had a blast. We should do it again.
We should. And again, I'm going to plug Kelly Create. If you're in the Seattle area and you need a copier, you need to call Ian.
Thank
If you
you.
and there's other things he can help you with as well with regard to your document management and all these other things.
Here's what
Uh,
I like to say: if it's on your network, if it touches your network, or it is your network, we can help you with it.
Boom. There it is.
Oh, thank you for having me on. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later, Ian. Thanks.